imagine they're a really quality side, and you went with them in the first half, but then just fell away in the second. What went wrong?
We had a 10-minute period after half-time that hurt us. We sort of had a late penalty in a set, and then we didn't regroup. But to see the boys, fight and compete, I guess, is something there that we need to make sure we take forward. You play like that throughout a season, and you play consistent sort of footy like that, where you're competing, then you're going to find yourself with a lot more wins. And that's something there that we need to make sure that we take forward into where we go.
Is that the story of your season? But there's just been drop-offs in games where you've conceded lots of points?
It is, yeah. We've obviously had some up and down ride, I guess, but we've had plenty of times, and where I've probably sat in this press conference talking about patches of games that we've hurt ourselves, and there's probably another one there tonight. But they're a quality team, and they know how to build the pressure, so we need to make sure that we learn how to do that. After half time, it was pretty obvious they were going to come out and try and compete at the high level, and for a period of time there we just didn't go with them. But as we started to find our game again, we got back into it, and we competed very well. I think we had one set sort of down in on their line, and we actually scored. So you've got to be able to play the game, which is the long game, to be able to put the pressure back on the opposition, and they did that to us after half time.
Is that the sort of lesson or the motivation you can take into next weekend and finishing that season well?
Definitely, yeah. Well, you've got to make sure you take out of those bigger games where you're playing teams that have formed habits over a period of time. They put themselves, Penrith have put themselves into that position a number of times, and you learn how to do that as a player, and it's through your spine, it's through your front row. I thought Stefano in the middle there stood up for us really well. Young Jock Madden, I don't think he's played in about 15 weeks, and he was able to get out and compete. So, I've got a lot of, probably junior players, but the more they play together and the more consistent they can find their game, then we'll turn ourselves into a very strong competitive team.
On Stefano, Madge, he's only played 20-odd first-grade games or something. If he continues on the trajectory and what he's shown, he could be a really dominant forward in this competition.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's sort of showing that now, but it's being able to do that consistently as a front rower. And he's, as you said, he's only young, and when you're in the middle of the park, it's a fair workload, but he's matched it with a lot of the players that he's played against, and he's got a pretty strong forward pack out there, and I thought he took them on there. It's just about getting a few others with him, and we've got a number of guys there that'll come into the group over a period of time that will add to what we're doing.
What about Jock Madden as well? Him and Brooksy, they're both probably directional half-backs. Yeah. How do you think it worked today?
Oh, I thought at times it was good. At times we needed to probably kick a little deeper into corners and things like that, and that's off the back of strong yardage sets, being able to get your play on so you can get deeper into the territory of the opposition. And there were times there, I think the start of the game, we didn't spend a lot of time other than on our try line. And we showed the defensive attitude that you need to be able to fight your way through that, and we held them fairly strong. They sort of jagged a kick off the post. They got that one, and then that try right towards the end was a bit cheap, but and then after half time, so we've got to be able to get a fair bit out of that, of how we competed, and that's the biggest message that I'll take to my players, is that you got to turn up like that. It doesn't matter who you play, it's what you're doing each week, and I'm sure they'll get that.
What about Safeheart and the knee injury there?
He hurt it probably a month ago, and he worked really hard back to get himself back, so it's not as bad, but I think he's just twinged that a little bit, so he should be okay, but the rest of the boys are okay.
What about Adam Dewey as well? Has he actually had the surgery, or what's the situation?
I'd have to check when it's booked in for. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. He hasn't had it yet.
There's a concern. There was a concern that it might take a while with everything going on in Sydney, and that delays his recovery.
That's not up to me. We have to work through those sorts of things back in Sydney to work out how that's going to come about. I'm sure people will look after it.